What is up, everybody? Welcome to a very, very special edition of Second Look here at the Geekiverse. The Star Wars The Last Jedi trailer dropped tonight during Monday Night Football, and oh my goodness gracious, this thing was just incredible. I could go on all night about it, and we're going to break it down for you step by step right here. Some things I heard, some things I saw that maybe you didn't catch first time around, but let's have a closer look. December 15th is when this thing premieres. Trailer's about 2 minutes, 25 seconds. I've already got my tickets. I will be there actually December 14th in Buffalo, which is where we are located. And I'll have tickets again for the 16th at the IMAX experience. You just can't be too safe. So without further ado, let's dive into some Star Wars The Last Jedi. So things open up here.
When I found you.
Now, very interesting. We've got, first of all, Kylo Ren. You see standing in what seems like the bay of a Star Destroyer. But here, we're on what I assume is the planet Crate that we saw in the first trailer, or teaser, I guess, if we're going that way, for The Last Jedi back in April. Now, these Imperial-like walkers, but First Order walkers now, look rather bulky. And if you look closely when they step down, you can kind of see they almost walk like gorillas. So their fists are down. We'll rewind here. Take another look at that.
I saw raw.
Pretty interesting to see. And as we go back here, we hear Supreme Leader Snoke talking. So let's play that out and listen to the exact dialogue that he's got.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power.
So when I found you, I saw raw, untamed power.
And beyond that. Something truly special.
Something truly special. So we'll go back here to Kylo a little bit. Obviously, there's so much of Kylo's backstory, or Ben Solo's backstory, that we have no idea about. And I'm sure that will start to fill in a little bit here as we get to Episode 8 and 9, and then some of the lore for the newly launched Star Wars canon from a few years back. So, there was one particular moment here that I thought was interesting. You don't know what planet we're on or what scene it is, but if you take a look, Kylo is leading a pack of First Order troopers, and it is very reminiscent to me of Anakin Skywalker leading the clone troopers to the Jedi Temple in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Or Darth Vader, I guess. But where they're going, who knows? How far into the movie this is, again, don't know. But I thought that was kind of a nice nod back to his grandfather, Anakin Skywalker, a.k.a. Darth Vader. So the raw untamed power bit, how does Snoke find Ben Solo? I've got some theories on this, and stay tuned to thegeekiverse.com in the coming months. As the numero uno Star Wars fan, yes, that is me, I will be covering the heck out of this. But regardless, we see a little bit more later on in the trailer here. I won't spoil that just yet for you, but it brings up some questions. How did Snoke find Ben Solo? He must have known about him, if whether he's a brand new character or some ancient power. Again, I've got some theories. We'll let the trailer play out here.
And beyond that,
the lightsaber, of course.
Something truly special.
And one thing actually interesting on Kylo before I jump on here is the lightsaber and helmet that were recovered. So he had his lightsaber in the battle, if you remember, at the end of Star Wars The Force Awakens, but he didn't have his mask, which he left right after he killed Han Solo on the bridge. So someone must have, I guess they didn't necessarily need to recover that. Maybe they could have built an exact replica, but I do think that was something that was kind of interesting. Well, moving on. So we've talked about Kylo Ren.
Something truly special.
Kylo Ren. We're jumping here to a beautiful shot of Rey. Now, everything that they filmed for the Ach-To island, which is where Luke has been hiding all these years, it appears, is just gorgeous. Now, It's clear, it's crisp. I love the light direction, the art direction that they've gone with so far. But obviously Rey gets quite a bit more lightsaber time there with Anakin / Luke's original blue lightsaber. Also, coming up, well, I'll let you listen here, but pay attention to the musical score as this is about to pass, and also pay attention throughout the trailer as Rey and Kylo seem to be the center of attention, and a little bit of gray area, no pun intended, with the gray Jedi theories coming up, but I digress. Beautiful new score by John Williams.
Something inside me has always been there.
So if you hear that, that is the Imperial March, a.k.a. Darth Vader's theme. Most famous in the original trilogy, and you heard it a few times in the prequel trilogy, but listen again, and you'll notice, I love the violin, or the string theme here, how John Williams kind of turned it on its head here. But listen to it one more time as we get a beautiful shot again of Ach-To.
Something inside me has always...
Another thing there is Luke's hand. So this kind of takes place right at the end of Episode 7 leading into Episode 8, and we are led to believe that the movie does start here. Now, I don't know if it's going to start with a flashback or maybe something going on elsewhere in the galaxy, and then we flash here, because Star Wars always starts in space, if you remember. Even Rogue One, every time we've panned away from the letters or lack thereof, the yellow crawl, if you will, you've always seen space. So I wonder if this is breaking tradition, because The Last Jedi seems like it's going to in quite a few cases. And we've got the dark overall tone right away. Just like we hear the music there, we see the red font in all of the promos and the red overall feel when it comes to the individual posters for all the characters that we saw so far. But Luke's hand, it's kind of cool to see it actually move there, which, of course, if you remember, he lost in The Empire Strikes Back to Darth Vader, and only briefly did we ever get a glimpse of it again.
Inside me has always been there.
Good shot of Luke here as well. We'll rewind just a little bit. He's clearly dumbfounded, a little bit maybe upset that he's been found. It's hard to gauge exactly what he's feeling, but it seems at this point that he wanted to hide away and let basically the last of the Jedi die out here, especially after what happened to Ben Solo. So Rey admits to always feeling special, essentially, here. She's got maybe a little bit of a wild card to her, maybe a little bit of a dark side. And it makes you wonder, there is that Palpatine theory out there that I'm sure you've heard 100 times, and we even talked about it on the Geekiverse's Walking Carpet podcast, which you can listen to on iTunes. Just search Walking Carpet. And we kind of went through the theory that Rey could be a descendant of Emperor Palpatine. But either way, she admits she always felt something special inside of her, which is clearly a little bit unsettling to Luke.
It's been there. When I was awake.
And we'll go back just a little bit here to Rey kind of coming up upon that little bit of a hope chest you see there. And that we believe is from the Wills. So in Rogue One, it touched on the Guardians of the Wills. And this is basically like almost the ancient Jedi religion, what it's based around. And it seems like Luke is kind of the protector of that at this point, which I'm sure at some point we'll kind of figure out how he came to be with these. But Rey is happening upon something special here. We'll get a little bit more insight into that in the movie, I believe. But we'll move on here.
I was awake. And I need help.
Rey asking for a master. Intense shot there. Luke in dismay at seeing Rey's absolute raw power, which is ironic that we're talking about raw power earlier in the trailer for Kylo Ren. Another early takeaway from the trailer here is that a lot of things that are being said about either Rey or Kylo Ren seem to be almost usable for the other. If you just swap their names out, it seems like they could go either way. So let's see as we move on here. Again, that gray area of blending these two together.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. Does now.
Luke admitting to the raw power that he saw before. I believe that he was talking about Ben Solo there, a.k.a. Kylo Ren, and it didn't scare him enough. The only other thought that popped in my head was that perhaps, and you got to leave it open to possibility, it could be a character we don't know about, which I doubt. It could be Darth Vader, so Anakin Skywalker, his father, having this incredible power. Could also be Emperor Palpatine, who just basically embodied the living Force, even though it was the dark side. But all signs point to Kylo Ren here, and him training him and not letting it scare him, but now scaring him with how powerful Rey is. And what does that say about the heritage of Rey? Is she somehow, again, you can ask the question 100 times, is she a Solo? Is she a Skywalker? Again, stay tuned for my thoughts on that, but let's play through this again. Right here, we do see quite a gripping scene, so that Rey basically touching down the stones flying up there. Luke breaking through what we can assume is the Last Jedi Temple, or the new Jedi Temple that he had built that was destroyed by Ben Solo at some point between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Now, one thing that I did learn is that up to 5 years approximately before The Force Awakens, Ben Solo was still Ben Solo. So all these new developments happened relatively close to the time frame that The Force Awakens happened in the Star Wars canon. But that's a very gripping shot of Luke there.
Scare me enough then.
And this shot that we've seen so many times, are we actually going to finally get to see this play through with Luke and R2 as he watches the temple burn? And I got to think that this is the first kind of real flashback we'll see in a numbered Star Wars entry. Don't forget, in Episode 3, that was the first time that we saw any sort of out-of-body experience, if you will. We saw Anakin having these dreams, these basically nightmares, these premonitions about Padme before she died. So these visions. And in this, in Episode 7, we see Rey have kind of a vision as well. But we don't really know if it's a flashback because we don't know if she was there or not. The other thing that I would say is in Rogue One, last year we did see some flashbacks from Jyn Erso to being a child. So that would have been the first time we actually saw anything back in memory, to my knowledge. And we also saw Luke with the vision on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. But with here, I mean, some of the dialogue we've seen here in the first part of this trailer, doesn't it kind of make you think that Luke really didn't know completely who Rey was? I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going with it at this point. I guess I could be convinced either way. But it's interesting that Luke admits to the fear of the possibility of training Rey, and just essentially it looks like he is just standoffish and wants nothing to do with training her at this point.
It does now.
Intense. As we play here, I'm actually going to let this play through and then come back to it. Listen for Kylo Ren's theme over the underarching string-based score.
Let the past die.
Let the past die, which is interesting from Ben to say. He is clearly conflicted, always has been. Love him looking at the mask there and destroying it shortly after. Now, what does that mean? Is he leaving the tutelage of Snoke? Does he want to get away from Snoke? What is he trying to do here? Is he trying to see things how Luke sees them? There's so many questions here. Is he fully entrenched in the dark side of the Force? He's trying to give up some sort of his past, and we don't know if that's his past as Ben Solo, or his past as Kylo Ren, or the past of both of those combined.
Let the past die.
Another thing, we'll rewind real quick here. We did see the scar on his face from the battle with Rey in Force Awakens. There's been a little bit of controversy over that because it's not the exact size that it was, and I think that's kind of weak. I think it's really not, even though Rian Johnson, the director, did admit to changing it, it's all possible that the scar could have healed a little bit differently over time. But Rian Johnson wanted to do it because he said it was more, I guess it made more sense to do overall aesthetically for the film. But we'll move on here.
Kill it.
kill it, he says, in his exclusive TIE Interceptor. So clearly here, he is a skilled pilot, much like his grandfather Anakin, who's the best pilot in the galaxy, much like Luke Skywalker, who blew up the Death Star, much like his father, Han Solo, a pilot of the Millennium Falcon. It's incredible to see, and he's got some good genes there, clearly. So that's where that goes, and we'll jump into our first shot of the lovely, lovely Carrie Fisher.
If you have to.
Dread, intense, sorrow, all over her face there. Clearly she's been through a lot with losing contact with Luke, with losing her son to the dark side, with losing her husband, Han, to the death of Kylo Ren's lightsaber. And this is a very, very intriguing detail here. We're going to let this play for just a few moments here, and then we'll chat about it.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
Absolutely intense. We're led to believe there that Kylo Ren kills Princess Leia, or General Leia, excuse me. And you see the sorrow here and the look on his face. It's very reminiscent of what we saw just before he killed Han Solo, his father. I cannot think for a second that they would show us that from a trailer here. I think they want us to believe that. But man, I could not imagine them actually showing us how General Leia dies, unless they're trying to soften the blow, because obviously with the late and great Carrie Fisher, it is a sensitive time for Star Wars fans everywhere. One thing that you look at here that, it shows him pulling the trigger, that's where Leia is stationed on the Resistance pilot ship there. You can kind of see right there where he's about to fire that she's there. Now, does she survive? Maybe she goes into shock. Maybe who knows? Who knows? But I thought this was very, very intense and very dark, and we'll have to see, obviously, in just under 66 days where that goes. Millennium Falcon flying through an unknown planet, but I gotta imagine it's probably Crate, because that seems to be where a big part of the battles take place, at least from what we've seen in these first two trailers. And the very controversial, the Porgs. First of all, we see our good friend Chewbacca co-piloting, we assume, the Millennium Falcon. I mean, assumption is on the emphasis of co-pilot, because you got to think Rey is training at this point. So who's flying the Millennium Falcon? I don't know. It seems like Finn's off on his own venture, and it seems like Poe Dameron's off on maybe some business. But maybe Poe is flying that as the surrogate son, if you will, of General Leia. But how do you guys feel about the Porgs? That's another thing that has been very contentious here, and they seem like they were created, at least the argument is they were created just to kind of almost be like the Ewoks, where you can sell them as merchandise for stuffed animals, things of that nature, collectibles, toys for Lucasfilm and Disney. I was not into it at first. I thought this was a little bit cute, but I probably need to see him in action. Take him or leave him. But the Porgs are found on Ach-To, which is where we find Luke. First shot there of Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. So lots going on here. Glad he made it, obviously, to this second film, and seems like he's going to have a more prominent role here. He definitely has a connection to General Leia, and we'll see where that goes.
You have a spark.
He gets a bit of dialogue.
Light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
All right. So we get a little bit of Finn here, and his heritage is very important, allegedly. I believe we're supposed to find that out in this movie, but apparently also he is not only having regrets about leaving the First Order, but is thinking about leaving the Resistance. It seems like he just doesn't want to have anything to do with this. Now, Kelly Marie Tran's character is supposedly a love interest here for Finn, or is a little bit of an influence. She views Finn as a hero of the Resistance, much like Luke, Leia, and Han were reviewed in the Rebel Alliance back in the day. But here is a very anticipated match for me. Finn getting to battle Captain Phasma up close and personal. And Phasma, in my opinion, is probably sick and tired of Finn having been embarrassed by him. He escaped her patrol in the beginning moments of Force Awakens, and then he also embarrassed her with the trash compactor at the end of Force Awakens. There is a comic series that I'm going to go into some detail on in some separate videos on our channel, but obviously Captain Phasma escapes the destruction of Starkiller Base. Powerful scene there. I love that Finn gets a chance to battle with basically that spike there, almost like a force pike, but more of an energy field, obviously, that we saw in the mid-battle of Force Awakens when Finn gets to hold the Skywalker lightsaber for the first time. BB-8 gets a little bit fried up there in battle. I, again, got to assume he is with Poe Dameron, who's the kind of like R2 going along with Luke Skywalker in all his battles. Another interesting thing while we're on the topic of droids real quick, in the poster that we got tonight that was released for The Last Jedi, C-3PO and R2-D2 are on that poster. So we're going to have to see where that goes.
This is not going to go the way you think.
So we'll go through a few things there. Luke says this is not going to go the way you think, and it is intense. And I'm wondering if there's... All right, this is going to be an interesting theory. I haven't thought it through very well, so don't get on my case. But I'm wondering if Rey almost abandons Luke after deciding that he won't train her, that he's decided that he's not going to take that step or let her take that step into becoming a Jedi or a Force wielder. I bet you that is why she maybe gets away from Luke, and I'm not sure what's going on here. But I'll tell you my thoughts in a second.
Go.
This character here looks like something right out of The Last Guardian. Does it not, Seth Zelensky? It seriously does. This planet, again, it's not clear what it is. It's got the red shades if you look at the back left. But the shelter, again, looks a lot like Hoth. So a lot of shades of Empire Strikes Back in terms of visuals, in terms of intensity, in terms of gray area. Because we didn't know much about Darth Vader when we went into Empire Strikes Back, so I heard. I wasn't around. And also, we didn't really know what was going to happen with Luke.
The way you think.
So Leia, again, in distress. Lots going on in her life. I really am intrigued to see what happens, and we're supposedly going to get to see Han Solo's funeral. I'm wondering if that's where our movie takes us in the beginning, in the opening sequence. So she's going through a lot, and it's going to be very intense, and I hope it's a good send-off for Leia, because Episode 9 was supposed to be her centrally focused movie. Just as Han Solo got to be the star of Force Awakens, Episode 7, Luke is going to be the star of Episode 8, The Last Jedi. She was going to be for Episode 9, but we'll see where that goes now.
Think. We hear Snoke say, fulfill your destiny, which is very interesting. What is her destiny? Why is it so important that she specifically becomes a Force user? In his case, a Dark Force user. In Luke's case, he wants nothing to do with being the Jedi. Is it possible that Luke denies her and she goes to Snoke looking for guidance? Goodness gracious, I hope not. And look, it's very interesting. Let's look at Snoke here to see him in the flesh. So I have a theory, and it's, again, something you'll have to check out in another video or a written post at thegeekiverse.com or here on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned in the coming weeks. But I have a theory that, in short, Snoke is actually a reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. I'll work those details out in that post, but it would line up. It's something, the whole Destiny theme was something that Palpatine and Vader always talked about. Fulfill your destiny. Always. So I've got to believe that that's a thing. His gold robe there that we saw from some of the early released images and the Funko Pop toys of Snoke, I actually think it works out really well. At first, he kind of looked like a sugar daddy. It was like, oh, okay, that's awkward. But I'm liking that a lot. It also, there's a part of me, and I know Jeff Pavlik agrees, we wanted Snoke to actually be huge, kind of like he was in that hologram in Episode 7. And they kind of built him up to be really big. So sadly, that's not the case. Snoke appears human here. He may not be, but we'll see where that leads. I'm going to stick with my Anakin theory for now, but we'll go along here just a little bit. He is force choking, or not choking, but it looks like he's putting Rey into a little bit of a world of hurt here. And I don't know what that means, what she said, maybe to deserve that, because it seems like almost she's looking to have some guidance. But maybe she doesn't trust Snoke, and maybe that leads her to our next portion of the trailer.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
So Rey says she needs someone to show her place in all of this. She's always been lost, even at least in her mind, to her days on Jakku, we're led to believe, because we don't know what really happened with Rey. I believe her mind was messed with. I believe that they realized that she was a powerful Force user or had the potential, and they took it away. In short, The Force Awakens tells us that Kylo Ren can extract memories. He can go in someone's head. That is some new Force stuff that we haven't seen in the Star Wars saga before. Now with Rey, I'm wondering if someone so powerful such as, I don't know, Luke Skywalker could have planted memories in her head, or at least given her memories that were really replicated or fake. So that's what I believe could have happened. Now we see her seeking guidance. I assume Luke's not helping her. Maybe Snoke was too whacked out or too extreme to help her. She's going to Kylo Ren. Maybe she knows the story of Kylo Ren as Ben Solo now, that she's been with Luke for some time, it seems. Let's see what that actually means.
My place in all this.
He asked her in Force Awakens, he said, you need a teacher, and he wanted to train her in the ways of the Force. Holding out his hand there, that gives me chills down my spine. It seems like this movie is heading towards the extinction of the Jedi and or Sith, if the Sith are not already extinct. Depends how you view Supreme Leader Snoke. But Kylo Ren and Rey might be teaming up here. Does Rey reject his call to help? Is that how Episode 8 ends? Do they become the Grey Jedi, if you will? Maybe starting a new breed of Force users. Who knows? But, man, think of the scenarios. Maybe they team up here. Maybe they go out to destroy Snoke and Luke. That's really chilling. Goodness, I hope that's not the way it is. But send me your theories. Let me know in the comments below. I've got at least 100 thoughts on what we've seen here tonight. We'll let the trailer ring out here. So there you have it, folks. Star Wars The Last Jedi in theaters December 15th. I will be there December 14th at our premiere here in Buffalo, New York. When did you get tickets for? Did you not get tickets? Let me know in the comments below. Tell me your theories. Tell me your thoughts on what we've seen here tonight. Very, very exciting time for Star Wars fans. I could not be more excited myself. Goodness gracious, I've got the chills. I've got the goosebumps. I'm going to be thinking about this for a long time, and I know you will be too. Stay tuned to thegeekiverse.com as well as all our social media to find out what we're thinking on it. Get in the conversation. We cannot wait for December 15th. For everything Star Wars, you're already in the right place. Thegeekiverse.com. May the Force be with you.